sorry. Whoa. Tony marries Dr. Melfi? Mamma mia!
Fine, let's get this over with. Fun fact, this is my 7th time, I believe, trying to write a script for Todd. I always revisit him whenever my Bojack videos get popular for a hot minute, and I have finally successfully done it. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Bojack Horseman. Or more specifically, Todd Chavez. Chavez? One of those two? Ugh, oh boy. But then again, my Bojack videos get a lot of retraction, like they'll get no views the week they premiere and then skyrocket, like weeks later, and rightfully so, I am pretty awesome. Plus, also they get a lot of criticism. I feel like maybe this time around, I could explain my points a lot better, but let's roll the dice. Okay, look, let me just put it out there because I know I'll get a comment or two. Despite what the title says, I don't hate Todd. But Kitty, you're making a video explaining why you hate Todd. Catherine, what the f did I just say? I don't hate Todd. I dislike him. There's a difference. You can like the idea of a character, but still find fault with them. I like the idea of Ida Davis, and I just find fault with how boring she can be and how the Griffins treat her as a person. I think Aaron Paul is a great actor, and he's giving a good performance, and Todd does make me laugh every now and again. Plus, it was nice he and Will Arnett were executive producers, so they likely each had something to contribute for their characters. But in my Bojack videos, I've said Todd isn't my favorite character and probably my least favorite character out of all of the main cast, since I have a few problems with Todd outside of the fact he kind of falls into the same trappings that Cosmo and Bobby Hill do, where at the start of the show he sounds quote-unquote normal, and then by the end his voice just annoys the hell out of me for some reason.
So it turns out Vice Chancellor Laffygassy got rabies from quarreling with an old raccoon, and then he started biting everyone, and now a bunch of them have rabies.
I've tried for over a year, maybe almost 2 by this point, to express my thoughts, but I've always ended up with writer's block. I think it's because I know how popular Todd can be, and I'm afraid if I express my true opinions, y'all will riot. Or I don't explain them the right way, and y'all will riot. Please don't. I'm so little. I'm like 5'2". Therefore, I'm quite short, and I have stuff to worry about currently. But I think now is the right time, and from what I can tell on the Bojack Horseman subreddit, there are people who dislike him as much as I do. Perhaps I'll find kinsmanship? I don't even know what word you would use. Alright, let's discuss. Starting from the beginning. At the start of the show, Todd is Bojack's roommate, although not exactly by choice. At a Halloween party, Mr. Peanut Butter Fruit in 2007, Bojack learned his father died as a result of a duel. Go watch my butterscotch video for more on why. Good thing all he got out of the experience was untold trauma that he can't go to therapy to get rid of for some reason, and a free churro. However, Todd was kicked out of his home by his mother, Helen, for being addicted to a video game and not making anything of himself. As he explained to Bojack,
I flunked out of school, my girlfriend left me, I didn't stop playing until my mom threw me out of the house. I mean, that's when I first realized, I'm a total screw-up.
Keep this in mind going forward, but with nowhere left to go, he wandered in. And as Bojack needed a friend in his time of need, he let him stay. To the present day. Hey, that rhymes. And he will simultaneously both resent Todd's existence and be nothing without him. Todd is basically the human equivalent of a stray cat that hasn't had its shots, where Bojack will gladly kick him while he's down and take all of his aggression and rage out on him, but he lets him stay, doesn't charge him rent, nor does he kick him out, even if he'd be well within his rights, just because he knows how lonely he'd be without him. And deep down, he does care about him on some level, he just doesn't want to admit it. Now, something great about Bojack Horseman is the show is meant to be a deconstruction of typical sitcom and cartoon cliches. For example, in sitcoms, you often see jerk characters show that they have a heart of gold, with big, grand gestures. Like the Smiths are awful people who abuse Klaus because he's the lightning rod, but when the chips are down, they told Rogu he wasn't allowed to harm him because he was still a member of the family. But in real life, and as Bojack finds out, that doesn't always work. To be a good person, you have to consistently be a good person, and work towards forgiveness if you want people to consider you a good person and continue to do so. Since those grand gestures might either make people uncomfortable with Diane, who hates being the center of attention, or feel hollow or manipulative because to them it might seem seem like you're only doing it for the brownie points. This mindset applies to all of the characters to some degree. Like Diane deconstructs the idea of a mouthpiece character, even if she's also a mouthpiece for the show, since her activism got her into so much trouble that at one point she got death threats and had to run away to war-torn Cordovia. With Todd, this doesn't exactly apply, and that's probably my main problem with him. He doesn't fit into the show, and not in a good way, which sounds like an okay concept, but I'm not a fan of the execution because the execution's kinda botched. With Todd, there seems to be a massive double standard. At times, it feels like Todd belongs in a totally different show, and again, not in a good way, like he just wandered into this one and got lost. Even his design compared to Diane is way too cartoony. Like, look at their head sizes. He could probably eat her if he wanted to. And I don't mind if he's the comic relief from time to time, since it could say something or make a point. Plus, Bojack is a pretty dark show. You definitely need a moment of levity every now and again. Like in Hank After Dark, where he and the president of Cordovia switch identities, which is cartoony and not at all realistic.
Why? This is really serious.
Oh, of course, your thing is serious, and my thing is just a dumb feminist trying to get attention by attacking a famous man. Is that it?
What? No.
And the episode makes the point that Cordovia is a war-torn cesspool, and the king is a dictator. So when Todd comes into office, he actually makes a lot of positive changes.
When he gave his royal fortune to charity.
What? No!
Big reforms which could lead to sweeping change in the embattled region or a precipitous economic collapse.
But this works for me because it fits in with the episode's message that the news tends to focus more on the arbitrary things, mostly because it gets the most views and it distracts from what's actually important. Like that not Bill Cosby does some really bad thing we won't mention for some reason that Hollywood is covering up, but we should all get mad that Diane is being a grouch.
Prince Gustav went missing briefly this afternoon, but he was quickly found buying chili in Beverly Hills. Our main story, ominous and anomalous accusations.
Or how we should care that Cordovia is suffering, but it's so far away. Who really gives a crap besides the UN, maybe? And Sebastian St. Clair. But these are really super few and far in between, or they come off as way too childish in a show that does try its hardest to be mature and grown up, like the marshmallow joke with Rufy, for instance. Compared to everybody else, Todd isn't employed. He often gets by using cartoony, zany schemes. His first one was writing his own rock opera, which, while seeming stupid, the lyrics and the score captivate people, including a feeder producer and Princess Carolyn.
I call it Newtopia Rising. Book 1. The Search for a New Utopia.
Book 1? You got me thinking sequel here.
But that fiasco was ruined by Bojack, as Bojack feared Todd would leave him.
Do you realize what this means? I mean, if this thing's a hit, I could finally move out.
Oh, you're gonna move out.
You want the yell?
To be sure Todd would fail, he hired Margot Martindale to sabotage him by putting out a video game that he knew Todd was addicted to. That way he would be too exhausted to play. And unfortunately, it does work.
Thanks for your help, character actress Margot Martindale.
I don't feel good about what we did here, Bojack.
I don't know what you're talking about. This never happened.
That idea was fine for me, and I thought it was sad when Todd finally realized that Bojack betrayed him.
Bojack hired Margot Martindale to make me find that video game so he could kill my rock opera!
Ah, dude.
Which for many people would be a friendship-ruining moment. But because Todd always had something ruined by Bojack, and he literally has nowhere else to go at this point, he just sadly accepts it. And he even says in Downer Ending,
As you know, I was hurt. Then I realized that's just how you are. You know, and maybe I just need to stop expecting you to be a good person so that way I won't get hurt when you're not.
However, as the show progressed, these became wackier and not for the better, with almost no form of deconstruction applied like they tried to do before. Or if there was deconstruction, it was played for comedy and not for drama, which led to almost no true consequences. Which sucks, like Todd would always go back to square one. See, another point about Bojack is, you're responsible for the choices you make and the consequences that ensue, and because of comedy, that almost never befalls calls Todd, or it does so in a negative way. Like in season 2 when Todd creates his own version of Disneyland, which because this is Todd, it's not a true amusement park. It's basically a shoddy death trap that nearly kills the main cast and dozens if not hundreds of people.
Here we have Mr. Todd's Wild Death Coaster.
The name is a work in progress, but we wanted to work death into the title for liability reasons.
Albeit, it does lead to Bojack asking out Wanda, but still, death trap. Outside of a legal battle with Disney over the trademark use of the name Disneyland, well, that's it really. There's no big point that Todd nearly killed people, it's just treated as a stupid joke that quickly gets glossed over. Whereas if Bojack did this, oh yeah, he'd spend the whole season getting sued into oblivion, and rightfully so. Sorry, this is just a major problem I have with the show, where when Bojack makes a mistake, he's rightfully called out for it, both by his friends and by the narrative. When his friends screw up, who cares? They have their reasons. Like Princess Carolyn dating 3 kids in a trench coat, in a running gag that went on for way too long and felt like a stupid joke I'm not in on. That's totally okay, but if we were to reverse the genders, no, that would be gross and ooky.
I want to go home!
Vincent, be nice! He's a little cranky because he just got adult braces.
You mean braces?
But Sarah Lynn coming onto Bojack to manipulate him into letting her crash at his house, awful and disgusting, and rightfully so, but come on, you know what I mean. Again, sorry, but this isn't the only time it's happened. Like, this happened a lot in season 3. First off, let's start with Emily. In season 3, Todd and Bojack celebrate that Bojack's new movie is doing well on the award circuit, and the chances of him getting an Oscar are nigh. They end up at a hotel to celebrate, where he runs into an ex-girlfriend of his, Emily.
It was the best.
Thank you?
I mean, it was the worst, but that's what made it so good, you know?
Yeah, I got it.
Like, I was laughing at it because it was so bad. Do you understand?
Yes, you're being very clear.
Emily is kind of like Todd, but as the opposite gender. She likes video games, she's quirky, and she shares his weird interests. Plus, sometimes, hey, it's cool to reconnect with an ex, occasionally. Maybe you realize why it didn't work out. Maybe you both grew as people, and even if you don't get back together, you can still be friendly with one another. But there's a problem. See, Emily still likes Todd, that way. But when she invites Todd upstairs, well, he isn't willing to get physical.
Maybe I should just go to bed. I'm feeling kind of sick.
Oh, okay.
But hey, it was really great seeing you.
Yeah, it was great seeing you too.
Which, that's okay. As we learn later, Todd is asexual, but he didn't know it yet. But Emily takes it as a rejection. Instead, she comes onto Bojack. Literally, she does.
What are you still doing up?
I got thirsty.
Should we call Todd, see if he wants to join us?
I'm tired of trying to figure out what Todd wants. I'll start with a whiskey.
And the pair end up sleeping together. And this is how it happens.
I don't want to hurt him.
Yeah, neither do I. That's why we're not going to tell him.
I just feel like we should tell him.
That feeling is you selfishly trying to assuage your guilt.
Of course, yes, Bojack should have known that was Todd's ex-girlfriend and maybe realized, like, but yeah, Emily also knew damn well that was his friend. Of course, the pair agree not to tell Todd. The problem is, well, Emily has started hanging out around Todd a lot more often.
Truth or dare?
Truth.
What is the worst recent thing you did to someone who cared about you?
The worst thing or the most recent?
Both.
And that means it's harder and harder for her to keep it a secret. Of course, she eventually does leave Todd because she's uncomfortable, and does but also doesn't say that her and Bojack slept together, and that's part of why she can't talk to Todd.
I don't think I've been a very good friend to you. Things happened, and I don't think Bojack's been a very good friend to you either.
After Bojack finds out he wasn't nominated, he comes home to clean up the mess, and finds Todd waiting for him there, without Emily.
Think is the thing that you think I know, you know?
So, you know I had with Emily.
You had feed with Emily?
Well,
Bojack eventually tells Todd that he and Emily slept together. Hey, at least give him credit. Emily didn't. That's pretty big of Bojack, all things considered.
I just knew something sketchy happened. I thought maybe you gave her one of your weird monologues about how sad you are, and it bummed her out.
I like how Todd says weird speeches like Bojack is that one uncle at Thanksgiving that goes on and on about his conspiracy theories, and you're just too polite to tell him to stop. Like he told Emily that flu shots contain microchips or something. But this leads into one of Todd's most trademark lines, and one that sticks in my head pretty often.
Can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay. You need to be better.
Which I both agree with this and also have problems with this. I agree with him in the sense that, yeah, sometimes just feeling bad about something isn't enough to redeem you. I mean, yes, feeling bad and admitting to yourself you did a problem is a good first step, but you still need to own up to your mistake, realize why you did it, or why you keep doing it, and go from there. And try your hardest not to repeat that mistake. With this, well, I get Todd's upset since Emily is his ex-girlfriend, but they weren't dating at the time, and Todd couldn't make it work. Literally, Emily wanted to sleep with him, he said no, Emily realized why, and then moved on to somebody else. And I can't believe I'm saying this again, but Emily came on to Bojack, and still kept it a secret herself, and the narrative only acts like one party is in the wrong. Even though, when you really think about it, they're both in the wrong. Sorry, this is a pet peeve of mine I have with shows that involve X-plots, where they get mad at one character but not the other, even if both deserve the blame. Like in How I Met Your Mother, where Barney and Robin sleep together a season after she breaks up with Ted, and keep in mind, Barney didn't go after her because he wanted to, it just spontaneously happened one night when they were both emotional, but Ted cuts off Barney and not Robin, and when Robin asks why, Ted basically says something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, that's not the plot line we're going for, sweetheart." I guess I understand this a bit more now that I'm a bit older, but yeah, it's still frustrating. And honestly, if it did happen to me, I would be mad at everybody, or at least have emotions. Just saying, it takes two to tango. But Todd does call out Bojack for this.
You are all the things that are wrong with you. It's not the alcohol, or the drugs, or when you were a kid. It's you. Alright?
Granted, I do like how season 4 made the point that Todd wasn't necessarily angry at Bojack for sleeping with Emily, he just had a lot of pent-up rage against Bojack for so long, and Emily was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Guess they're not gonna put you in the Best Friends Hall of Fame, but I don't know that I loved her. You know, I don't think I'm allowed to be in love.
But going back to season 3, well, Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter also start their own rideshare company, Cabra Cadabra, I like the name, which is basically Uber but with female drivers. I think Lyft beat them to the punch. And he ends up creating this unsafe work environment because instead of catering only to female customers, as that was the intent, well, it caters to everybody, including the creepy men they were trying to avoid.
The workers are allowed to complain. Oh, we gotta tighten up that ship. Our first priority is creating a safe space for women. We should replace them with women who do.
And when they complain, well, Todd takes Mr. Peanut Butter's advice and fires them and replaces them with the Orca women that worked for Goober.
Find women who are comfortable around gentlemen. I know, a gentleman's club.
That's perfect.
To Werewolf.
Which good for them getting jobs and flaunted it, but that kind of isn't the point. Even the Goober girls implied they hated being objectified considering the floppy fins, which in real life is a sign that whales hate being in captivity. Plus, Todd is never called out for it, and neither is Mr. Peanut Butter. It's just treated as like, oh, they're comically missing the point. But they end up selling the company for tons of money, and Todd, well, he tips the money away before he can actually truly enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, crap! I accidentally tipped a waitress $8 million. Well, guess I'm broke again.
Now, the tipping thing, I think that's when my dislike for Todd was sealed. See, Bojack, once again, is a show all about how one mistake can cause a huge wave of mistakes, and those mistakes stay with you, or come back to haunt you.
Getting you to buy that addictive video game was the act that set me down this ruinous path so many years ago.
Like, it's a show where status quo is God is never in effect, or if it is, well, there will be major fallout. Like Diane lying to Mr. Peanut Butter about Cordovia for months on end basically spells the doom of their marriage, and it also leads to Bojack and Wanda breaking up. So it would be cool to see what Todd would do now that he's as rich as his friends, especially since he is somebody who gets by on little to nothing. Would he get an apartment, start a new business, just continue living the way he does but with a safety net, realize money is one of the reasons his friends are as screwed up as they are since it can't buy them love or fix their shattered minds, blow blow through that money like crazy? Well, because he tipped it away, nothing happens, and that's all we hear about it, except for a brief joke with the waitress, which is actually pretty funny.
Here's the check. And this cow likes getting tipped.
Which sucks. That would have been the perfect time to give Todd some more character development, because he never truly gets character development. He just doesn't. Think about it. He just called out Bojack. He won't see Bojack for over a year. He cut Bojack out of his life. Or him tipping the money away could have led to him feeling incredibly insecure, since there's always going to be that gnawing feeling of what could have been. Granted, there are a few things I do like about Todd in season 4. First up, the episode aptly titled Hooray Todd Episode, where we find out that Todd is stretched pretty thin, and he thinks he has to be everything for everybody, even if it spells his own detriment. Until after a talk with Bojack, he decides to go do something for himself, hanging out with his fellow aces. And then there's his coming out arc, where Todd realizes, yes, he's asexual.
You know, for an asexual, more than not friends is probably as good as it gets, right?
Yeah, I'm not really at a place yet where I want to joke about it, but it feels good to talk about it.
And that's pretty cool. He's an ace in the hole.
What now?
I'm not doing that. Just saying, I like this arc, and I like how it becomes a part of him. He even joins a support group, like I said above, where they reassure him there's nothing wrong with him, and they spell out that being an ace isn't the same as being repulsed. It just means you don't get attraction in that way, because some ace people can and do enjoy certain parts of life.
So, it's not weird for an ace to get married.
No, if you found someone who really accepts you for who you are, go for it.
I think this was probably the first time I heard the term asexual in a show, and even saw it depicted in a show. Like a lot of people, I thought that term meant you didn't feel any kind of attraction, like you were just monotone as all heck. Which of course I now know isn't true, in which case if you didn't feel any kind of attraction to somebody, you'd probably be aromantic or aroace, and I applaud Bojack for saying there is a difference, so that's good. But season 4 also introduces another plot point about Todd I don't like. The creepy clown dentists.
Why is our hotel room filled with dentist clowns?
Don't be ridiculous, Diane. They're not all dentist clowns. Half of them are clown dentists.
The only good creepy dentist is Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors, even if he beats up Audrey. Now, I know by now you probably want to argue, oh well, Todd is comical and you can't excuse it. You're clearly looking too deeply into this. And if this were any other show, I would agree with you. But by arguing that, you're going against the main theme of Bojack Horseman, that sitcom cliches might actually be kind of creepy or illegal, and we should not take inspiration from such. Except this cartoon, it's the lone exception, Avi. And that is why I dislike Todd so heavily. There's a major double standard that's never seriously commented on in a major way. At least with Mr. Peanut Butter, it was a part of the doom of his marriage, since it just made Diane further and further bottle up, since she was basically watching a child in an old man's body, like, yay, we're back to normalcy, what the hell is this?
Mr. Peanut Butter, I'm so relaxed. I didn't realize how much tension I'd built up in my— oh my god!
Plus, as somebody who has dated somebody who was 10 years older, like Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, yeah, I understand them a lot more. Todd's creepy clown dentists take over Princess Carolyn's apartment, and also kidnap a child.
Mommy, where's my mom?
Oh no, he's waking up. Hit him with the giggle gas. Oh.
They get away with this, by the way, and they also get rabies. And instead of just putting them out of their misery, Todd creates a new business venture where he lets people run through the woods while the clown dentists chase them.
Nothing motivates like fear. So remember, once you're in there, don't stop running. If the clown dentists catch you, they will bite you, and they have very healthy teeth.
Okay, that's freaking creepy. Oh, but I guess it's okay because he has rabies shots on standby. Fun fact, rabies is a weird disease in the sense that if you don't get the shots and feel any symptoms at all, be it diarrhea or a little tingle in your finger or your throat, you're done for. There's no helping you. However, some good does come out of it. First off, we get another one of my favorite Todd lines.
Look, the woods are dark and scary, but the only way out is through.
You have no idea how much that has helped me. And also, he meets an axolotl named Yolanda, who, like Todd, happens to be ace, in an opposites attract kind of way, since Yolanda is more by the book and proper.
I'm actually asexual.
Yeah, I know. So am I. That's why I'm asking you out.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
She eventually gets comfortable enough to introduce Todd to her family, who, unlike her, happen to be super positive in matters of mattress mambo.
Wow. Yolanda told me all of that. That's all really great information that I was already privy to.
Now, outside of the episode continuing the trend of double standards involving assault when it comes to males...
Asexualize me like one of your French girls, Todd.
Gulp.
Because Bojack cares about victims so long as they're female. I just think this is a progressive show. Like, really? Well, this doesn't really lead to anything meaningful, but jokes. Lots and lots of jokes. Which doesn't really fit in for a show like this. Some of them are admittedly kind of funny.
It's midnight, and I'm the fish.
Even if I have to censor Bojack. But much like the tip thing, well, it was like the writers were thinking, oh, this could further Todd as a character and give him depth. Nah, let's nip it in the bud. Nor do they comment on the fact that Yolanda's sister was 100% okay with assaulting Todd by pretending to be Yolanda, because pretending to be somebody to get them into bed with you is deceit and counts as rape. See, Yolanda hasn't exactly told her parents that she was ace, and when she eventually works up the nerve, well, the reveal happens off screen.
You know, it felt good to finally tell them.
I was surprised how cool they were with it.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that despite our differences, they're my family and they love me.
Funny, but then Todd just decides, almost as if a sticky note on the last page of the script, no, they don't belong together and they should just break up.
Yolanda, we need to break up. I'm sure there's a guy out there for you whom's smart and accomplished and whom went to college.
Which feels weirdly rushed. Like, there was nothing in this whole episode that really said that. Like, oh, her family's like repulsive, well, okay, just don't really, like, involve yourself or set a boundary. Plus, the idea of Todd being with somebody he doesn't love because he thinks because they're of the same orientation, that could have been a season-long plot point. Perhaps a slow burn to Todd realizing he's only with Yolanda because he thinks he has to. Because, really, opposites attract isn't always a good thing. However, I am of the mindset that somebody being of the opposite temperament can be good, because there's a high chance they could compliment you, but Yolanda doesn't compliment Todd, like, at all. She basically just treats him like a child or a basket case.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I just wanted you to seem impressive.
Impressive to who?
Todd. To whom?
But because the season wanted Todd to be the head of Bojack's streaming service and to have the stupid Me Too robot, well, Yolanda had to go, even if they could have had their cake and eaten it too. Since Todd working at a major company as the CEO, Yolanda would love that. Imagine how stressed he would be. Speaking of, the Me Too robot is like one of the few times Todd does get actual consequences outside of the David Boreanaz incident, since the misunderstanding causes the streaming service to be shut down. Even if I think it would have been a bit more meaningful if instead it comes to light that not only did Bojack choke Gina but didn't, well, Flip was a horrible person and a horrible director who assaulted Bojack and threatened him into silence, because honestly, who's really gonna watch a show if they know, like, the person was that uncomfortable?
I am the show creator, and if I want your character to get naked, he gets naked.
Come on.
You signed a contract, and that means I am your god.
Yeah, sorry, not a big fan of the light bulb scene or what they did with Flip. It's just, for a show like this, it's like awful. Now, with no job, Todd basically chills on the couch and occasionally hangs out with Princess Caroline's daughter. And he's so good with her that Princess Caroline makes him Rufy's nanny.
I do know her routine and all of her favorite foods and how to do funny voices for bedtime stories, unlike Carlotta.
Which I think is the best course of action. Todd already lives with them, she doesn't really have to pay anything, and he isn't contributing or paying any rent. He should be doing something. Now, I've gone on in this whole video about how I dislike the show didn't really give Todd any meaningful depth the same way they did with everybody else, where most of his interactions basically just revolve around people like Bojack or Mr. Peanut Butter. Well, with season 6 being the final season, they of course tried to rectify that, and I both like and dislike it. Well, I guess there's no pleasing you. Screw you, Catherine. Todd's stepdad, Jorge, comes to Todd to tell him that his mother is in the hospital and she requires a kidney transplant, which Todd unfortunately sold to White Whale.
Wood, you need to work on your listening skills. I sold my extra kidney just last week.
Why?
I wanted to buy these sock puppets.
This means they have to go on some wild, crazy Todd adventure to get it back. And just so you know, Jorge was Todd's stepfather, not his birth father.
Wow, that's racist. People don't always look like their last names. For example, I'm white, and my last name is Chavez.
There goes my idea that Todd is a good Latino rep. At least he's not Latinx. I hate that word, and anybody who tries to be progressive by using it. Even his last name technically isn't Chavez.
Which, by the way, is the only thing you ever gave me.
I gave you my name, and you have clearly wasted it.
Granted, I feel like the reason they made this distinction was because Aaron Paul, as far as I know, is not Latino, but speaking from experience, there is such a thing as light-skinned Latinos, or you could just argue he's mixed race, hence the lighter skin, and his Caucasian mother. I mean, I'm mixed race, but the crew, especially the creator, have gone on record to say how much they regret not casting the right people, even if, as a person of color myself, you guys did alright. Like, you don't have anything to apologize for. Like, yeah, maybe it would have been cool if Diane was voiced by a Vietnamese actress, but the dog days are over explained she never really connected with her cultural roots, since her parents assimilated and then some. Hence, to me, it makes sense why she's voiced by Alison Brie, aka a white woman. Sorry, another rant. On the trip, well, it seems like Jorge basically watched my whole video up to this point, and he agrees with me. He has problems with how Todd is conducting himself.
I have friends, I have a job.
You sleep on the couch and you play with puppets all day.
I'm happy, Jorge. What more do you want from me?
I want to know that you're okay.
Thank you. Rapturous applause. Catherine, clap. No. Well, screw you. Just saying, I am of the opinion that you can do what makes you happy, but the way it's presented here, like, if something happened to Todd's friends, or if he never lived with Bojack, he would be screwed. He has no security or backup plan. But I like how the show also makes the point that if Jorge cared about Todd that much to worry about his safety, well, he could have always called or reached out or been sure he was with people who were watching him. He just never did because Todd's mother, Helen, is too proud to admit she made a massive mistake by cutting him off.
If you called her, she will talk to you.
Well, she can't talk now because she's in a coma, right?
Yeah.
While stealing Todd's kidney, they're stopped by some security guards, who let Todd go, and Jorge makes a realization. Todd will be fine in life because...
discipline to get me where I am today. Things didn't just work out. But I should have realized. You're white.
I forgive you.
Excuse me? Is the show trying to say Todd's always gotten by and succeeded because he's white? Because that's not what happened. No, Todd never got by in the show solely because he's a white man. And this is coming from a Latino viewer. You're just making that crap up.
¿Qué tal? Estoy aquí para recoger la basura.
What? Sorry.
Oh, no español. Ok, evitemos este momento incómodo y déjame entrar al edificio, por favor.
Todd got by because he's lucky. He's resourceful, he has a good mind, and he has a gift at winning people over just by acting authentic. That's his whole character. That's why Kelsey liked him. That's why JD Challenger liked him. None of his success was because of him being white or people being biased.
I mean, maybe give her more lines or words or, I don't know, feelings or whatever.
Come back to my web. Let's talk about Diane's feelings and make this baby sing.
And the reason it annoys me so much is because Jorge made a good point. Remember, Todd was so absent-minded, he tipped away millions of dollars, which could have given him a lifetime of financial stability. And Todd is the type of person where I could honestly see him living frugal enough to never have to work a day in his life ever again if he so chose. Like, he could have passed that money on to his great-great-grandchildren if he wanted to. But it just fits in with how, like, oh no, Todd, you're fine the way you are. No, you're not. Plus, another thing I'm not too crazy about, it seems like season 6 is convinced that Todd was thrown out of the house because he was the weird kid.
You never understood me.
I raised you as my own flesh. I was tough on you because I expected big things from you.
You weren't tough. You were mean.
Because the world is mean.
Not my world.
When that's not what happened. Todd was thrown out because he was a slacker who had no future and ignored everybody and everything to play a video game instead of of actively planning for his future, like going to school or getting a job. Which, no, unless your kid commits a really horrible crime like murder, I do not approve of throwing them out ever. They're your kid, you have a responsibility. And Todd had an addiction, so I feel like they should have sent him to some kind of counseling or rehab. But it was never because Todd was different or weird. His mother was just doing tough love, which again, I do not approve of, but that's what happened. Heck, his mother even indulged his weirdness from time to time. Like, when they go over for dinner, she made him Frito pie.
So mom's too sick to come out of her room, but not too sick to make her famous Frito pie?
Well, she wanted to see you.
I did not know that was a real food until I watched King of the Hill. I just assume it was like a weird food thing you make up, like bacon pancakes. But I'm glad this lesson at least stuck with Todd. He moves out of PC's house and gets his own apartment, which he can now do because PC has finally found a good work-life balance for Roofy, and he starts his own business venture, which won't be for 10 episodes this time around, mostly because season 6B is 8 episodes long, but you know what I mean. Todd has realized he's very good with kids, so he opens up his own daycare for Vim's employees.
That's brilliant! Todd, I've done it again! Let's go, babies! Babies, come on!
Which, again, I think is a good idea. Yes, PC was struggling because she was a single mother and didn't really have a good routine yet, but I'm sure she isn't the only one. I'm sure even couples have problems, especially with how demanding of a job working as an agent could be. Just saying, Rutabaga and his wife having 7 kids is apparently super normal in this world, as is the idea that Diane would have definitely had a litter if she gave birth. Wow, parenthood must suck in Bojack. Like, come on, like, Hollyhock's mom was a human? Imagine having to push out that horse head. But Todd does improve, and I think that's great. He even gets a girlfriend who is just as quirky as he is, and get this, she's an ace too. She's like Emily, but as a bunny. Still, there is trouble. His mother still doesn't want to admit that she made a mistake by throwing him out, so she avoids him as much as possible, even if she does truly want to reconcile. So Todd and Margot Martindale launch a plan to get Helen to show she cares, via Frito pies.
Helen!
Mom!
Are you alright?
It's okay, it's not real, I'm fine. It's a classic Todd shenanigan. But how would you know what that is?
Granted, it does lead to her having a heart attack, but when she wakes up alive and well, they're able to come to an understanding.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you didn't mean to.
I thought kicking you out was the right thing. I wanted you to grow up, not leave forever.
And that's where we leave Todd. He now has a stable job, a happy life, a girlfriend, and he's rebuilding his friendship with his family bit by bit. As for his relationship with Bojack, next to Mr. Peanut Butter and Princess Carolyn, he's still in his corner. Obviously, they won't be roommates anymore, but they will still be friends, and Bojack will continue to respect and support Todd. But you can tell I really find Todd to be a mixed bag. I like the idea of him, and he has provided me with many, many life lessons. But at the same time, I also have major problems with him, which the show doesn't really address. Or they will try to address it and then go right back to square one, like not giving him enough depth until it's too late, or not giving him enough consequences for his actions, because that would probably mean that he'd have to go to prison forever. He's not a celebrity like Bojack. But that doesn't mean I hate Todd as a character. He's still a lot of fun to watch, and I guess that's all I could say. Besides, I finally wrote a Todd video, you Goodbye.
And so you see, the circle had become complete. A grander mission to bring this boy and his mother together again.
But you've killed a lot of people.